chime in.
This is bad. I'm on the speaker side here.
You're on the speaker side? Oh, no, it doesn't. Oh,
Or I should say the microphone.
oh, the microphone side? Yeah. Well, you're in serious trouble now.
Oh, yeah.
I have to keep quiet.
I don't know where they are.
Do you know what their name is?
Hey, Chris?
Yes.
Not the Pokes, but the other couple that come?
Yes.
What's their name?
Yeah. Yeah. They're,
Stock. S-T-O-C-K. Stock.
they're on a,
Last name.
yeah, they're on a cruise.
They're on a cruise.
Oh, that's too bad. That's a sad story.
Yeah. It's not like people going to the Mercy Me concert or
cruise.
something.
Oh, no, I don't know about it.
Oh, that was so good too.
Oh, well,
But
like
you know
everybody.
what? We were good students because we came home and watched the video,
Did you really?
the whole bit, an hour's worth. We did from y'all's
Well,
video last
just an hour's worth? Yeah, the class is
Well,
an hour
it was
and a
like
half.
an hour. It was like an hour and 15 minutes. It was very long.
Yeah.
It just gone over yet.
It was very long. I love it. All right. All right, now I got to get you under control, right?
I do this.
Oh, they'll be here, I'm
every
sure.
Bible study. If
Oh,
I get a
well, I left the door
thing,
open,
study guide.
so I'll get in trouble.
I go to
Time.
All
right.
One of those places have the cutoff, and I three-hole punch it. Because I never open that book up and
Oh,
to be able to get it flat. Yeah. So I've been doing this for years. Keeps everything. I'm sorry.
it worked.
Kinda.
All right. Well, welcome back. So, we are hitting that great point where last week, there they are. Now, you guys, somebody's going to have to move. So that, well, wait a second. Now, how long have y'all been married?
Longer than this.
Okay, let's split them up.
She said 40.
Oh, we got 42.
Well, we lived together for 8 years.
Oh, right.
Tell anybody.
Really split them up. Okay, now that we're all settled. So yes.
I'm sorry. Before we start, very quickly, can I throw out a prayer request?
Oh, sure.
Okay. Tammy Roan, Elliot, her son that has Crohn's disease. He's in his mid-20s. Finally, we're up to the surgery date is Wednesday, and he's got a lot of necrosis, a lot of dead intestine that they're going to cut out and reattach. It's going to be up to the surgeon and what they find in the surgery, whether he needs a partial colostomy or whatever. But we're just praying for the best. And he's very excited about doing this because this poor guy has been sick for years. Mm-hmm. So I'm just asking for everyone, especially on Wednesday, we're not sure what time the surgery is, but to pray for Elliot and Tammy and Nick for this. Thank you.
No, prayer requests will take any time you want.
I'm sorry?
Yeah, I know.
No.
All right. So last week we got to the first person of this evil trinity. All right, we got the dragon last week, and this week we're going to the Antichrist, and next week we'll do the false prophet. But this is probably a good time to just, before we get into the lesson, we've gone through the exiles, we've gone through the martyrs, the 144,000, the two witnesses. I wanted to just open it up before we start of what questions, or is there anything that is burning in your heart after the reading or catching up with the reading that you want to throw out at this point?
Well, I've been concerned about the Jews.
You've been concerned about the Jews?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because they pull up the Christians.
Yep.
They don't pull up the Jews.
No, they don't.
And concern.
Yeah.
But
Well-
they're given a second chance
Well, that's what.
They
Well-
are given a second chance, but the second chance is like,
amidst the tribulation.
Amidst the bad times.
Yeah.
yeah, and it's not like, it's gonna be easy to become a
Very
believer.
Very good.
No, I mean, because when you look at it, I think it's in Romans.
Well, okay, but,
So if you look at the Jews, all right, they are God's chosen people.
right,
Okay, we and this as a belief in the scriptures, when you read the scriptures as a Christian, you cannot think that we replace the Jews. All right, we are grafted onto the olive tree. I do not believe in there's a thing called replacement theology. That we're not there. That's not scriptural. So the Jews are God's chosen people.
right.
And when the Jews, in essence, kicked the Messiah out, and we'll talk about that in Daniel here real soon, their hearts, God hardened their hearts. And so right now, in the church age, the age of grace, however you want to call it, we are in an age where the Jews, it's very difficult for them to see Jesus. Hey, you made it. Did you go to the other place? What's going on over there?
Boy Scouts, Boy Scouts.
Boy Scouts. Okay. Yeah, and when you keep passing it, get it up here too. So the Jews, Paul tells us in Romans that the Jews are right now their hearts are hardened to Jesus, and the tribulation is also called Jacob's trouble. All right, which means they're going with Jews can believe. It's just very hard for them to believe right now in the church age. It's going to be a lot easier for them to believe when we get into the tribulation period, but it's also going to get harder for anybody else. Yes, I mean, so
it's going to open up to them.
it's going to open up to
They
them.
will be
Oh,
open to.
okay.
Oh, absolutely. Because you got the 144,000 that are going to be sealed
Well, yeah.
Messianic Jews preaching to everybody.
So, Romans chapter 11,
Yeah.
the title I have in mind is Israel is not cast away. The whole 11th chapter is about Paul speaking to that very fact, that he cares very much for the Jewish people. And so it talks about this as to the things that are going to go on. But if your heart is burning like it is, we need to be praying for a revival within Israel, within the Jewish community.
Yeah, it is.
You know?
Because I know some Jewish people that
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and I'll tell you this. I love that. Because to me, the study and understanding of prophecy should not just be for the trivial pursuit of it. It should give us a burning desire, because we know what's coming, to make sure that no one goes through that. I mean, because the last thing that we want when you learn about this is for someone you know, you love, or shoot,
behind.
somebody that you meet in the grocery store that's actually nice to you. You don't want them to go through that. I mean, you don't want them to go through it, and then you don't want them to go through, in essence, eternity separated from God. Martin.
You know that verse, maybe Romans, where it says, until the number of Gentiles are saved, and then what, the Jews? Okay, they have to wait till the number of Gentiles?
Until basically the age of the Gentiles is run its course. I can't remember what verse, but I know it's going to be up here in a second.
Okay.
Trust me, tonight, if you didn't bring your Bibles, don't worry about it. I'll put it up here. But tonight is a verse-heavy lesson. I mean, if you read the book, that you know.
Well, I'm just wondering if that meant the number of Gentiles before the rapture, or after, when the 144 are preaching to Jews and Gentiles?
I think it's before.
Okay.
I think it's before, because when we get the scenes in heaven, and I want to think it's in Revelations 19 or 20, and they're talking about around the throne of heaven, every tongue, every nation is represented. A lot of people will look at that saying, they're only a couple of years away from translating the Bible into every known language. And people are sitting there going, as soon as they're done with that, that's it. No. Anybody that tells you that they know, run.
False witness.
Yeah, absolutely. Any other questions? That's good. I love that.
But, I kind of wonder, along that same lines, though, with the fact that surely people were talking about the end times back during World War II.
Oh, yeah.
And the Jews were going through such a persecution back then that, you wonder if they did not turn to Christ during that period of time, and especially European Jews, how in the world is that going to happen? Yeah. It wasn't their...
That's a Holy Spirit thing.
Well, I mean, okay, now I'm talking fairly scriptural but non-scriptural. I mean, this is interpretation and it's a stretch. But I think when you look at Ezekiel, dry bones, boy, if that doesn't point to the concentration camp and what you saw, none of us, is anybody born in the 40s?
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
48.
Well, 48, but the World War's over.
No,
right? Yeah. So, I mean, none of us are in that World War II. When you see those pictures now of the concentration camp, I look at dry bones, and
They were dry bones.
and in essence, that's in essence what led to the nation of Israel coming back into the land. So, all right.
Okay, I have one question on page 146. I think it's kind of self-explanatory. It's the very bottom, before his personality, where it says that when he is to be revealed.
Mm-hmm.
But he was already here, working, right?
Hold on to that question because you're going to get it. You're going to get it. Because, like I said, tonight, I think last week we were talking about this before everybody came in. I think I had maybe 10, 12 slides. This week I have 50 because you might as well, if you've got a Bible, you might as well put your one thumb in Daniel, your one thumb in Revelations, and your other thumb in almost, 2nd Thessalonians, because we're going to be bouncing scriptures like crazy. All right. So, just a quick housekeeping item. We are not breaking for spring break because I forgot to break for spring break. And since we're all here, we're just going to keep rolling. So, you ready? You got your popcorn? There you go.
The earth, our home. Studies tell us that from the beginning of time, approximately 108 billion people have called Earth their home. And living on our planet today, just under 7 billion. With this in mind, do you think one man could rule over all the inhabitants of the world? The possibility of such power may sound improbable, but history proves that many men have tried. For centuries, warriors, generals, politicians, and religious leaders have risen from obscurity to garner prestige and grapple for power in an attempt to rule this world. At the age of 20, Alexander the Great set out to conquer the ancient world. The Caesars of the Roman Empire ruled with diabolical shrewdness to ensure all roads led to Rome. Napoleon's drive for military dominion ignited his all-consuming passion to be emperor over all. Adolf Hitler sought to purge the earth of those he despised and create a ruling super race of his making. But our world today is beyond such blatant maneuvers from maniacal madmen who seek to control all civilization. Our society is too sophisticated to fall prey to the manipulations and cunning of clever leaders who promise peace but deliver utter distress. Right? Wrong.
In fact, we have been warned that one day in the future, a man will come on the world scene with the intent that all will worship him and no other. If we take a journey to the last book of the Bible, the book of Revelation, we can read of this warning and find a description of this ruler in great detail. So who is this madman, this dictator, this diabolical world leader who, even at this moment, could be preparing his rise to power? The beast from the sea, the Antichrist, and agent of the apocalypse. Cabinet member ends crippling strike. These headlines blared across the front page of the London Times. The walkout had triggered a severe national crisis, virtually shutting down Britain for more than 5 weeks. When the Union of Unions demanded a 12% pay hike, a 6-hour workday, and free childcare, the manufacturers finally balked, and a nationwide strike resulted. Truck and rail deliveries stopped. Riots and looting erupted, and Great Britain spiraled into chaos. When a solution seemed impossible, an unknown junior cabinet officer, a man by the name of Judas Christopher, Undersecretary of the Board of Trade, requested permission to meet with the heads of the unions and the businesses, and within 3 days he hammered out what both sides called a win-win deal. Christopher's stunning success soon won him a widespread following, and it was only a matter of time before the Prime Minister's government fell and Parliament elected Christopher Prime Minister by a landslide. But everything came crashing down when, in an instant, millions of people around the globe disappeared. I mean, the cars they'd been driving collided with other vehicles or spun off the road. Pilots vanished and their planes crashed, resulting in thousands of fatalities. Assembly lines clogged when factory machines were left unmanned. 2 nuclear power plants exploded when operators vanished. And on the heels of the mass disappearance, Israel was surrounded by Islamic nations. With the Western nation in turmoil, most people assumed that no one would come to Israel's defense. A major Middle Eastern war seemed inevitable, and pundits were convinced that this time Israel would not survive. Judas Christopher flew to Jerusalem, and after conferences with both Israel and the surrounding Muslim countries, he announced the successful negotiation of a 7-year peace treaty guaranteeing protection for the Jewish people. Overnight, Judas Christopher became a hero to the Israelis. He solidified that position by declaring support for the rebuilding of the Jewish temple. An astounded world lavished praise on him for yet another spectacular success. Prime Minister Christopher stared unseeing into the blazing fireplace. He rested his chin in his hands, pondering his next move. Slowly, the room darkened, and the flames flickered like the tongues of serpents. They were the only source of light in the room. The blaze shot higher, and soon Christopher could make out an image within the flames, a vague but undeniable form of a man, towering over him like a smoldering Goliath. The form and face were beautiful as an angel, but its features were twisted with agony. Christopher broke out into a cold sweat. The voice spoke deep and low. "I know what you want, Judas Christopher." The syllables seemed to come from the depths of the universe. "You want power. More power until you rule the entire civilized nations of the world, and I can give that power to you. Who are you, said Christopher. Why are you offering this to me? I am the true prince of this world. All the kingdoms of the earth are mine, unwittingly forfeited to me by your primeval parents. You have long been my faithful servant, Judas Christopher, though you did not know it was I whom you served. Acknowledge me as your Lord, and I will fill your entire being with myself. I will be yours, and you will be mine. Judas Christopher said, I accept. The words came quietly but fervently. The choice was much easier than he had anticipated. To refuse the one desire of his heart, that would be unthinkable. It is done, the presence said. Within moments, the flames subsided, the darkness lifted, and Christopher found himself alone in the room once more. When the European nations held their next annual Congress, Christopher was the keynote speaker. His speech was magnificent, and the delegates responded with a long standing ovation. Only minutes later, he stood on the balcony to address a huge crowd assembled on the pavilion outside the building. He smiled and waved expansively, and when the adulation subsided, he publicly renewed his commitment to the well-being and protection of Europe. All at once, in a moment, 6 rapid-fire rifle shots rang out. Christopher's head jerked backward, and he fell to the ground. Sirens blared, and in moments, medics rushed him to the nearest hospital. A half hour later, BBC reporter Alison Lancaster addressed a worldwide TV audience. According to doctors attending Judas Christopher, he has sustained mortal wounds, and recovery is impossible. Later that evening, Alison Lancaster again faced the TV cameras, and for the first time in her career, her voice faltered on the air. Those of you who witnessed the shooting of Prime Minister Judas Christopher this afternoon will find what I am about to report difficult to believe. She gripped the microphone in both hands, trying to hold it steady. The world watched him go down when shots were fired earlier today. But a little after 5 o'clock, the Prime Minister opened his eyes, got out of his bed, and walked out of the hospital on his own accord. The Congress of the European Union was still in session, and the day after Judas Christopher's recovery, the leaders of the member nations met in secret. They forged a single dominion divided into 10 provinces and nominated Judas Christopher as their president. His rivals, heads of 3 of the nations represented, resisted vigorously, but their delegations overrode them, and Christopher won the election by a wide margin. Judas Christopher, now president-elect of the powerful 10-nation empire of Europe, returned to his London office and called Archbishop Damon Deathrow. Deathrow was a high-ranking church leader who was widely known for his work to unite all of the world's religions. Christopher got right to the point. He said, I have before me a golden opportunity, and you can be a part of it. With your widespread religious influence and my political skills, we can work together to accomplish great things. People need a worldwide government, and I can provide that. They also are ready for a worldwide religion, and you can provide that. Their need for gods to assuage their fear gives us a perfect opportunity to combine our efforts. Together we can create an irresistible force by which we can unite all people of the world as one. Will you join me in this quest? Deathrow needed little persuasion. He accepted the offer and opened himself up to President Christopher's dark master. In the coming weeks, the Archbishop formulated his plans, which were ultimately designed to redirect the world's worship toward Judas Christopher. First, the Archbishop built a massive altar in Jerusalem, and like the prophet Elisha of old, he called down fire from heaven to ignite the sacrifice laid upon it. Next, he created an enormous statue of Judas Christopher and placed it in the Jewish temple. With thousands of people watching on site and billions more observing online and on TV, he called for the image to speak in Christopher's voice and demand that all humanity worship him alone. In response to these miracles, countless numbers of people around the globe turned to Christopher as their new God. Those who refused were hunted down and executed. President Christopher called Archbishop Devereaux into his office. He said, "All the nations we have taken over are in economic chaos." Devereaux responded, "We cannot solve the economic problem unless we manage all of the world's resources. That means we must track all trade to enforce equitable redistribution. And we can accomplish this by assigning to every person an individual number that enables him or her to participate in commerce of any kind. This means everything from international manufacturing and shipping to buying a loaf of bread at the local market." Well, that might address the economic problems, but what about the religious component? A condition for receiving that number will be a signed pledge to worship you and you only. We will devise a way to use the number to monitor their adherence to the pledge. If they don't worship you, what happens? Damon Devereaux chuckled. To paraphrase Thomas Hobbes, their lives will be nasty, brutal, and short. And that was the story. And I read that story. And I know that you're sitting there thinking, where in the world did he get all that stuff?
You know, it's sort of amazing that the Bible is better than a movie.
Yeah.
I mean, it's better than a movie. So, we're talking about the beast of the sea. You all right with the lights down? Okay. Whatever you want. So we're talking about the beast of the sea, or the Antichrist. Now, we know the term Antichrist, but the interesting thing is it only shows up 5 times in Scriptures. Only in John, by John as the author, and 4 times in 1 John, only 1 time in 2 John. And it's interesting because one of the key verses is 1 John 2:18. Now, only in, at least I should say it this way, only in the New King James translation do you get the capital A for Antichrist. In every other translation that I quickly looked at, you don't. But the way the New King James did it, I sort of like. It says, "Children," this is John talking in 1 John, "it is the last hour. And just as you heard that Antichrist," meaning the Antichrist, "is coming, even now many Antichrists have appeared. From this we know that it is the last hour." So, John obviously had a little bit of an insight into the Antichrist, because in the revelation that he got from Jesus, he got to see everything that was going to happen. So it sort of makes sense that John's the one that is really talking about the Antichrist. Although, and what does Antichrist mean? Let me, for some reason, there we go. Antichrist means nothing more than the opponent to the Messiah or the adversary to the Messiah. Yeah. So, the Antichrist is a man. All right? A person. I think it's a man. Could be a woman. I don't really know. Okay? But it is a human being. It is not an angel or a demon.
It's a bad angel.
Well, no, because basically the dragon, Satan, is the fallen angel.
Okay.
He is using the Antichrist.
Okay.
And he is using the false prophet. And we'll see what that means here in a little bit. Now, even though the term Antichrist shows up just 5 times, there are a lot of descriptions of this dude. All right? And this comes straight from the book, so I'm not going to read all these. But basically, here is a little bit of a list of who the Antichrist is and where he's found. And he's the devil does not come up with anything new. all right, everything that he does is a distortion or a perversion of what God has done. So if you look at this chart, that again, this comes right from the book, but it is awesome. You see this basically counterfeit Christ, where Jesus is the Son of God, Antichrist is the son of perdition. Where Jesus is the Holy One, he's the lawless one. And on and on and on it goes. So everything that Christ is, he's the opposite. And he is the opposite. Now, we had this conversation sometime previously, which is, okay, we don't know right now who the Antichrist is. We don't know if the Antichrist is even on this earth at this point. Now, I would like to think so, because I'm really okay with the rapture happening now, okay? I'm good with that. You know, right before my next mortgage payment, let me go up. But I'll tell you, the signs and the pieces that need to be in place, there is nothing that, from a scriptural standpoint, that needs to happen before the rapture takes place. And that's when you're going to find out who the Antichrist is. Now, we do know where the Antichrist will come from, and it's the old European, or the old Roman Empire. And I don't have this verse up, but if you look at Daniel 9:26, and I'll read it so you don't have to look it up, but you can if you want to. We're really going to bring in last year's study and into this play. So this is Daniel talking about the Antichrist. Then after the 62 weeks, so remember we're the 70 weeks? All right. So then after the 62 weeks, the Messiah will be cut off and have nothing left. So basically, this is when Jesus comes into Jerusalem the last week of his life. All right? Right before the crucifixion, right before his last Passover. And the people of the prince who is to come will destroy the city and the sanctuary. Okay. So in 70 A.D., I'm working backwards on that statement. 70 A.D., Titus in the Roman Empire destroyed Jerusalem and the temple, and the Jews were kicked out of Israel until 1947. So a long time, 70 A.D. to 1947 A.D. So the people of the prince who is to come will destroy the city and the sanctuary. So this is where we get that the Antichrist, the prince who is to come, is coming from the people, the Roman Empire, that destroyed the temple and the sanctuary. Okay? And its end will come with a flood. Okay, I don't need to talk about that. So the Antichrist can come from anywhere in there. Anywhere. Now, you got to put yourself, again, I am teaching a pre-tribulation rapture, which means the church is raptured before the tribulation starts. Go ahead.
So is that the Christians that go up with all the wrecks and everything? Is that pre-tribulation?
Yes. Yes. That's he teaches pre-tribulation also. Yes.
So they were all going
yeah. So think of it. Just put yourself in the mindset of every Christian in the world gone. There's going to be just a little bit of chaos. Okay? There's going to be, it's going to be a great news story, sort of. It's going to be wild. They're going to be sitting there trying to figure it all out. There's going to be, economic issues. There's going to be every type of issue you can imagine. Because if you take out, what is there, 1 billion Christians?
2.
2 billion? Take 2 billion people out of the world. Now, some countries it won't matter. I'm pretty sure California, everybody will still be there.
Your cousins.
Okay, well,
There
maybe.
are actually a few. I was shocked, but there are actually a few.
All right, I digress. But anyways, it's going to be chaos. A pre-tribulation rapture is not the start of the tribulation period. It's the signing of the covenant. All right, we're going to talk about, well, let's just talk about it right now. If in Daniel...
Can I ask you a quick question?
Yes.
Where is Jeremiah's church?
California.
Okay.
Right. So it is.
I just wondered.
It's always,
Okay.
Okay.
I just checking in with you.
Okay,
And
all right,
settled
all
down.
right. So my little snappy thing went away. Okay, so if you remember in Daniel, we had 62 weeks, or we had 70 weeks. All right, so there was 7 weeks and 62 weeks, 69 weeks. Once the Messiah got cut off, the 69 weeks stopped. All right, we went through this a year ago. All right, so we are right now in what some people love to call the semicolon between the 69th week and the 70th week. Now, that would be great if there's punctuation in Greek, but there's not. So, the 70th week starts in Daniel chapter 9, the next verse, 27, where it says, "And he," talking about the prince who is to come, "will make a firm covenant with the many for 1 week. But in the middle of that week, he will put a stop to the sacrifices and the grain offerings, and on the wings of abomination will come one who makes desolate even until a complete desolation, one that is decreed to pour out on the one who makes desolate." Nice tongue twister. So basically, the world is going to be in chaos because all the Christians are going to be gone. You can bet, like he said in his sort of fictional story, that the Middle East is going to be a prime target for, well, it's a powder keg right now, okay? And if the Christians are gone, then in essence, Jerusalem, the Israels are on their own. And somebody's going to step in to fill that void of leadership. And that's where we get the Antichrist. So now, get your track shoes on, because we're going to go through all of these wonderful things. So what do we know? Oh, come on now. I might have to look backwards. All right, so what do we know right now? Oh, it's going to load up again. Great. He could be here right now. So if you look at Daniel chapter 8, 23 and 24, in the latter period of their rule, and that is that particular period of time in the end times, when the transgressors have run their course, a king will arise, isolated and insolent and skilled in intrigue. His power will be mighty, but not of his own, and he will destroy to an extraordinary degree and prosper and perform his will, and he will destroy mighty men of the holy people. So, in the beginning of the tribulation, when this person steps up and creates, in essence, that peace covenant in the Middle East that kicks off the tribulation, he will come through as a very charismatic person. We probably won't know him at that point. He'll probably be involved with the peace agreement, but not necessarily the face of the peace agreement. And what will happen is that person may or may not know at this point that they're being controlled by the devil. You don't know. We don't know until the midpoint of the tribulation period that this guy has gone, or this person has gone off the deep end from an evil standpoint. So it may start out, this is a very charismatic person, a very engaging person. People will want to follow him. All right? And what will happen is that power will just keep coming and coming and coming, and he will gain his power, and nobody will really even know why or how it happened. And that's when it'll all hit the fan. So you pop down to Revelations 13. And you take what we just read in Daniel. And the dragon stood on the sands of the seashore. Then I saw a beast come up out of the sea, having 10 horns and 7 heads. And on his horns were 10 diadems. And on his heads were blasphemous names. So we talked about this before, the 10 toes. All right? 3 of those get knocked out. We got 7. So I mean, this is all back to Daniel. But what's this sea mean? Is the guy coming out of
No, people, the humanity.
Look at that! I love it. So the Bible, especially Revelations, where it doesn't make sense if you just keep reading, it's going to usually give you an explanation. So Daniel 17, and he said to me, the waters, the seas, which you saw where the harlot sits, are people and multitudes and nations and tongues. The Antichrist, the beast of the sea, is coming out of the people. All right? This tells you it's a person. All right? It's a person. So now let's look at the presentation. I love the way he sort of unfolded this in the book. So, again, all of these scriptures are in the book. They're in the study guide. But we're just going to plow through them. So 2 Thessalonians. This is a big old thing. So Paul's writing to Thessalonica, the church of Thessalonica, and he's answering the question of a dispute that said, we missed the end times. We missed the rapture. So anybody that wants to talk about that the rapture wasn't taught before the Schofield Bible, that's one of the things that you get. The pre-tribulation was never taught in the age of Christian history until Schofield wrote his notes in his study Bible in the 1800s. That's a bunch of hooey. Read Thessalonica. So Paul's talking about it here. He's answering a question. Let no one in any way deceive you, for it will not come. What will not come? The rapture will not come unless an apostasy comes first. An apostasy is a falling away, a turning away from God. Yeah, and Jesus. And the man of lawlessness is revealed. And the son of destruction, who opposes and exalts himself above every so-called God or object of worship, so that he takes his seat in the temple of God, displaying himself as being God. Okay? So, it ain't going to get better and better. It's going to get worse and worse. We talk about the next great revival. And there may be a next great revival in the world. But when we get closer and closer to the time that the tribulation period and Jesus is going to come back, there's going to be more of a falling away. What'd you lose? Oh, your purse? Is this?
No,
No?
it's not a purse.
Oh. Okay.
Did you bring it in? Should leave it in the car.
It's not a big deal.
Quit making a mess.
I'm sorry, I was just gonna quietly go back and get my text.
Maybe Scott has it in the back pocket. No.
Okay. Prop the door open so you can get back in. So, as we get closer and closer to the tribulation period, to the rapture, one of the signs is that we shouldn't be surprised that it's getting harder and harder for Christians. Now, I'm not making any statement that, Seems like that's what it's like today, because
This isn't that thing.
you don't know. But in essence, the lawless one will not be revealed until we get the apostasy that happens. All right? Now, we go on in Thessalonica, or 2 Thessalonians 7 and 8, chapter 2. For the mystery of the lawlessness is already at work. That tells you in 60 AD, 56 AD, whenever First and 2nd Thessalonians was one of the first epistles written by Paul. The lawlessness was already there, already happening. Only he who now restrains will do so until he is taken out of the way. All right? I'm going to keep going and I'll come back to it. Then the lawless one will be revealed, whom the Lord will slay with the breath of his mouth and bring to an end by the appearance of his coming. All right, a little unwrapping here. Right now, evil is restrained by the Holy Spirit. Guys, if you're a Christian, you are the indwelling, the Holy Spirit's indwelled with you. We, as Christians, are the ones restraining the lawless and evil one. When we are taken up, out, the cork is out of the bottle and evil is left to go unrestrained. The church is the restrainer of evil, which is really, it's the Holy Spirit. So let's dig in a little bit. Make sense? Okay, stop me anytime you want.
Wait,
Yeah, go ahead.
when you say that the lawlessness actually began in the Garden of Eden?
Oh yeah, lawlessness has been.
It's not just then.
It's been going on since.
Adam and Eve started it, and it's been downhill ever since.
It's been downhill ever since. So let's pop to Jesus' own words. So you'll hear the Olivet Discourse. Well, this is part of the Olivet Discourse. This is Jesus talking. At that time, many will fall away and will betray one another and hate one another. Many false prophets will arise and will mislead many. Because lawlessness is increased, most people love will grow cold. Jesus is telling you there, because I believe the Olivet Discourse is really talking to the Jews, not to the church, about what's to come for the tribulation. Okay? Now, pop over to 1 Timothy. But the Spirit implicitly says that in later times some will fall away from the faith, paying attention to deceitful spirits and doctrines of demons, by means of the hypocrites of liars, searing in their own conscience as with a branding iron. Whew, that's a picture. Men will forbid marriage, advocate an abstaining from food which God has created to be gratefully shared in by those who believe and know the truth. So we're going to get this interesting little thing here. They're gonna forbid marriage. But it seems like we're getting there a little bit right now, aren't we? Okay. Advocate abstaining from food. We're not really doing that yet. All right. What does that mean? I don't know.
I thought that meant, what I jumped to was no communion.
That's an interesting one. That's an interesting one. That's an interesting one. So, but we're getting, basically throughout the scriptures, you're getting these little bits of pieces of information that tell you what it's going to be like before the restrainer, us, is taken away. Now we get another one. In 2 Timothy, for the time will come when there will They will not endure sound doctrine. Boy, we're there now. But wanting to have their ears tickled, they will accumulate for themselves teachers according to their own desires. Okay. And will turn away their ears from the truth and turn aside to myths. Look at the mainstream denominations now, in the United States in particular. All right?
Especially after your post about Disney.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, I'm just talking about the church itself. The Christian church will not be defeated from the outside. It will be defeated and collapse from the inside. People will lose their sound doctrine and will basically want to get somebody up in the pulpit that will preach what they like to hear.
Oh, yeah, that's already started.
Oh, it started 50, 60 years ago. All right? It started 50, 60 years ago. One more. Yeah, one more. All right. So this is back to 2 Thessalonians. For the mystery of the lawlessness, we talked about this, is already at work, only he who now restrains will do so until he is taken out of the way. We talked about this already. Then the lawlessness one will be revealed, whom the Lord will slay with the breath of his mouth and bring to an end by the appearance of his coming. Now the rest of the story. That is, the one who is coming is in accordance with the activity of Satan, with all powers and signs and false wonders. Okay, when you see throughout, especially the New Testament, and it says powers and signs and wonders. Wonders, you could really take that word and say miracles. Okay? You could take that word and say miracles. What we're going to get is we're going to get the coming of the false one who is going to do false miracles, false wonders. We'll learn about that guy next week. And
It says wonders in the Bible. It doesn't say false.
does it say false?
No.
Really?
Uh-huh.
Okay, that's interesting. And with all deception and wickedness for those who perish, because they did not receive the love of the truth as to be saved. Okay? So that's what you got. That's going to be this guy's presentation. He's going to be a beautiful person. It's going to be somebody that we all, charismatic, we would all be sitting there going, let me vote for him twice. And most liberals, well, I'm sorry. No, only kidding. But I mean, we would follow him. I'm telling you right now, if this person was on the scene right now, there are Christians in this world which would be, this is a good God. We should vote for him. All right? That's scary. Personality. There will be given to him a mouth speaking arrogant words and blasphemies, and authority to act for 42 months was given to him. 42 months is what?
3.5 years.
All right. So basically it tells you that the first 3.5 years of the tribulation, well, it's going to be bad. We're going to have a whole bunch of natural disasters. All right? It's not until the midpoint of the tribulation period that it's all going to hit the fan. Which tells you that this guy he's going to be an ambitious guy. He's going to be one that has, in essence, an arrogance. I mean, we see that right there. But he probably doesn't know that he's the Antichrist.
That's what I wondered.
I was gonna ask you. Yeah. Well, I bet it does.
You think that? I don't think so yet.
I don't know. Scripture doesn't really say it. Now, we know that, and I think, and he talks about it in the book, there are going to be things that happen, boom, 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 in the middle of the tribulation period, the 3.5 year mark. The 2 witnesses are going to get killed. Boom. Boom. Okay? He's going to get shot. Boom. Satan is going to be kicked out of heaven. Boom. And it appears that that's the point that the Antichrist is now fully indwelled by the dragon, by Satan. Okay, so there's going to be events that just happen, boom, boom, boom. And then when Satan is kicked out of heaven, his access to heaven is gone. And he is fully indwelled into, and I don't know if indwelled is the proper term, to the Antichrist. This last 3.5 months, or 3.5 years of the tribulation, what Jesus calls the Great Tribulation, is going to be bad.
I think it could be a person that wants all of these and wants to be controlled, wants the evilness, but I don't know if he's captured yet by the devil.
And I would agree with that. So let's look at the breadcrumbs in Daniel. Again, speaking of his personality, he will speak out against the Most High and wear down the saints of the Most High One. Just grind them down, all right? And he will intend to make alterations in time and in laws, and they will be given into his hand for a time, and half time. All right. Interesting thing about alteration in times and in laws. In laws, we get that. But in times, I didn't realize that Napoleon tried to change the calendar. I didn't realize that from a 7-day perfect completion to a 10-day.
144 something.
Yeah. So basically, he's going to try to make alterations in time. And you know what? That could be something else besides days of the week. What is our calendar based on? The birth of Christ. It started at the birth of Christ. So making alterations in time may be taking the AD out of time. I don't know.
Well, they already have done.
Well, they already have, but it's still there.
No,
You know.
it's there, but it's also C.
I mean, they already don't call it what we used to call it, right?
Yeah, that's true.
So we've renamed it so it takes Christ out of even the calendar, which is still based time-wise. It didn't change when we start. It did change what we call it, though.
Yeah. Well, and if you look at some of our country's own founding documents, it's 1776 in the year of our Lord. We don't do that anymore. That's to your point.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so keep on going.
After common time.
Yeah.
Whatever.
That's right. ACE. Yeah.
Yeah.
Instead of Agnus.
Anno Domini.
Sorry, my Latin's not good. Okay. So another verse in Daniel. After this, I kept looking in the night vision, and behold, a fourth beast, dreadful and terrifying, extremely strong, and had a large iron teeth. It devoured and crushed and trampled down the remaining with its feet, and it was different from all the rest of the beasts that were before it, and it had 10 horns. While I was contemplating the horns, behold, another horn, a little horn, came up. Remember this from Daniel? Mm-hmm. Among them, and the 3 of the first horns were pulled out by the roots before it, and behold, its horns possessed eyes like eyes of man, and a mouth as great as a beast. So we get this is going back to the 10 horns, and then the 7. Sorry. So if you think about. And the book did a good job of in his fictional account of sort of giving you an idea about it. He didn't use it in his sermon, which was, after he, in the fictional account, after he was shot and sort of raised to the dead, you think about it, he brought the European Union together, and anybody that opposed him, basically.
Short life.
Yeah. So they, I love that, they were pulled out by their roots. Okay, if you pull something out by its roots, there's nothing left. There's nothing left. All right. And again, into that personality, this is Daniel 11. So we're popping all over the place. Then the king will do as he pleases, and he will exalt and magnify himself above every god, and will speak monstrous things against the God of gods, and he will prosper until the indignation is finished, for that which is decreed will be done. Now, got one more. And the meaning of the 10 horns is that there were heads and the other horns which came up, and before the 3 of them fell, namely that horn which has eyes and a mouth uttering great boast, and which was large in appearance than its associate. Okay, I don't even know why I put that one up there. All right. So, yeah.
The one that's more prominent is the Antichrist.
What's that?
The one that's so prominent.
Yeah. This gets a little bit into the providence of God. All right? And I'm going to go back to this verse. For that which is decreed will be done. I'll make this statement, and you'll see if you agree with me. All right. We all say that God is all-knowing, all-powerful, has control over everything, right? I think we would agree with that.
Yeah.
Does God have control over evil?
Yeah.
If he doesn't have control over evil, he's not all-powerful, he's not all-knowing. So, you were talking about the Jews. This is to find the remnants of the Jews. This is what temptation, trial, testing, however it says it a couple of different ways in the Bible. But the restraint of the devil on the world is the final test of the world, and in particular of the Jewish nation. So God has decreed what is going to happen, and for that which is decreed to be done. That's sometimes hard to chew on, but when we know there's a good and there's a bad part of providence. We know from Job that Satan could not do anything to Job until God gave him permission to. Okay? So that means it's a good thing and it's a bad thing. It's a good thing from the standpoint of we know for our own selves that when bad things happen, most of the times it's because we did stupid things. All right? All right? I mean, you can sit there and say, I'm getting attacked by the devil. No. Okay? Unless you leave a door open or God is sitting there going, I'm going to test them. And hey, Paul said it a couple of times. When people did him wrong, he said, and they're Christian people, all right? They were followers of Christ, and he said, I turned them over to the devil so that they would be reproved, okay? That part's terrifying, okay? If we can do something and leave a door open that God says, well, I gotta discipline my children, so I'm going to let the devil after them for a while, okay, that scares me, okay? But at the end of the day, normally, it's our own fault. So, what's happening in the tribulation period? Horrible stuff. Lots of people getting killed. But God's still in control. And he decrees when it will be done. Everybody with me on that one? Okay. All right, so now we get the plan. And back to Daniel. And through his shrewdness, he will cause deceit, and that should be a lowercase t, cause deceit to succeed by his influence. So basically, the Antichrist, through just a total shrewdness, is going to be able to succeed. That's scary. But I always love that. He will come to a time of tranquility and seize the kingdom by intrigue. So what that tells you is that he's going to create peace. And he's going to sneak in there from a shrewdness standpoint and take control over everything. And again, we talked about it before. He's just going to sit there and everybody's going to be like, oh, this is great. So great. Back to Daniel. I don't know why I have that. I'm going to go to the next one. And I'm not going to go with that one. All right. So his plan is, well, I will talk about this one. As for the 10 horns, one will subdue 3 kings. So we talked about that. So I'm going to skip that slide. Sorry. So, any questions because I just skipped 2 slides? All right. His pride. Okay. What caused Satan to fall?
Pride. He wanted to be God.
He
Mhm.
wanted,
Yeah. He wanted, and Isaiah talks about it, he wanted to be above God. Now, we'll talk about this when we get into our next class, meaning systematic theology. But in essence, Satan was a created being. When was he created?
Wasn't he an angel?
He was. He's a cherub. So when was he created? I don't know. But probably some think on day 1. Which means from chapter 1 of Genesis to chapter 3 he fell. Because he wanted to be higher than God. Same thing with this dude. And he opened his mouth and blasphemed against God. To blaspheme his name and his tabernacle, that is, those who dwell in heaven. Daniel goes on to say, then the king will do as he pleases, and he will exalt and magnify himself above every god. We've said this one before. So, pride. What comes before the fall? Pride. All right. So now we talk about the peace treaty. So the peace treaty is what kicks it off. All right. When this peace treaty happens, most likely, by the bits and pieces of evidence that are in Scripture, it will be a sharing of the Temple Mount. Now, in his fictional story, he talks about the Dome of Rock being destroyed. I doubt it. Maybe. You don't know. But when I can't remember what part of Revelations where the angel goes and tells John to measure the temple.
Yeah.
All right? And he tells him not to measure this area because it's for the Gentiles. Okay. We got to get our thinking that Gentiles could be Muslims in that case. All right? Because in essence, the Gentiles just means not Christians. Not Jews. Yeah, not Jews. So if the Christians, us, the church, is taken out, hey, the next biggie is going to be the Muslims. So if the temple sharing seems to be what's going to bring about the peace accord and the building of the third temple, and we leave this court out for the Gentiles, it's probably the Dome of the Rock.
Yeah.
Everybody good? Okay. All right. I put persecution, and this is back into Revelations, and he was also given to him to make war with the saints and to overcome them, and authority over every tribe and people and tongue and nation was given to him. So again, if we believe what the Scripture says, and we believe that God is in control of everything, he is giving authority to Satan, and in turn, Satan is giving it to the Antichrist and to the false prophet to have free reign. And it says every tribe, people, tongue, nation was given to him. So that means the Antichrist is going to have control of the whole world. Scary. Now, I put this together. Go ahead.
No, A, right after that, somebody want to read A? It's really interesting. Right after that.
Oh.
And then all in heavens and the earth, because that gives us our out, I think. Isn't that right? all whose names have not been written in the book of life, belonging to the Lamb that was slain for the creation of the world. In other words, that gives us that power. Am I reading it right?
Okay, so let me go to it.
Hey,
This is 13:8.
yeah.
All who dwell on the earth will worship him. Small him meaning everyone whose name was not been written
in the book of life.
from the book of life of the Lamb and who was slain. So, okay.
We have our out. Am I reading it right? Because we belong to the Lamb. Is that
Yes.
correct?
But we're already gone.
Yeah, we're already gone.
Right.
But,
But this is what Christian else is still.
yeah, but there'll be people
Who belong
that'll
to
be
the-
saved
Right.
in the tribulation.
If they belong to the,
Yeah.
they still have, because it's right after that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. No, that's what it's all about. So,
Wait,
what was it?
wait a second.
Go ahead.
Yeah,
Yes.
is
That's,
that part of his persecution?
what's that?
That scripture, is that?
Which one? The one that's up on the screen right now?
Yes.
Well, this was a comparison from this, okay,
Okay.
which
okay.
is Revelation,
Okay,
and then into Daniel.
got it.
And you put these verses together in Daniel, and it's saying the exact same thing.
Okay.
I kept looking, and the horn was waging war with the saints and overpowering them. This is from Daniel. Sounds very similar.
In that last one and this one, when they talk about the saints, they're talking about the people who converted after
Yes.
the rapture.
Yes, because you have tribulation saints. The martyrs are tribulation saints, which tell you people are going to get saved. In fact, if you want to think about it, it'll probably be the biggest revival in history during the tribulation period. It's amazing what persecution will do. You know, it's amazing what persecution will do. So when we say saints, and you are right, we are talking about people in the tribulation period that are going to be converted to Christianity, whether they're Jews or not Jews, by the 144,000 Messianic Jews that are basically going to be mini Billy Grahams. And probably great, really big. So anyways, so this is just a compilation of Daniel. He will speak out against the Most High and wear down the saints of the Most High, and he will destroy to an extraordinary degree and prosper and perform his will. He will destroy mighty men and the holy people. It's amazing how Daniel and Revelations come together. Really, really well. So you pop back to Revelations 13, and he will cause all, the small and the great, and the rich and the poor, and the free man and the slave, to be given a mark. We'll talk more about this next week. On their right hand or on their forehead, and he provides that no one will be able to buy or to sell except the ones who has the mark, either the name of the beast or the number of his name. So we'll talk about that a lot more next week. But basically, that program it's gonna get bad, all right? Because you're gonna have. I think the one thing about the tribulation period is it makes it black and white. You're either going to believe in Jesus or you're not going to believe in Jesus. There's not going to be any of this. Well, maybe I'll take this part, but I won't take this part. You're either going to believe or you're not. And it's going to get extremely black and white. And Jesus talks about it in Matthew. And this is the thing that for then there will be a great tribulation. The great tribulation, this is back to the Mount of Olives, is the last 3.5 years. Such as has not occurred since the beginning of the world until now, nor ever will. Unless those days had been cut short, meaning numbered 3.5 years, no life would have been saved, but for the sake of the elect. The elect are those that before the creation of the world had been decided to be saved. Oh boy, that's election. We'll get all into that. But in essence, Jesus knows right now who will go through the tribulation period and who will respond to his work. Don't ask me how. But if it wasn't cut short for the sake of the elect, no one would survive, which is terrible.
Don't you think it's interesting that Jesus talks in the past tense?
Yes, because it's already happened. I mean, when we get into systematic theology and we look through some of these things, especially God's attributes, I don't know how you explain it in our terms, because we are so chronologically focused, all right? And I don't know, when you start mixing in God's providence and free will, how he knows exactly what we're going to do, even though we have full capability to do it and are held responsible for our choices, even though he already knows what we're going to do. It's a mystery.
Not to him it isn't.
Not to him, is it? Oh, Lord. Okay, I gotta hurry up. Okay, so his power. Basically, that is the one who is coming is in accordance to the activity of Satan. And he has powers, signs, and false witnesses, or all that. And I'm going to skip a couple of, I'm just looking at what to skip here. Okay, I'm going to go to this one. Okay, so 2 Thessalonians 2:10, which answers a little bit of what we've been talking about with basically their ability to see straight, meaning people's ability to be able to accept the gospel. And with all the deceptions of the wickedness for those who perish, because they did not receive the love of the truth so as to be saved. Okay, this to me is before the rapture, going into the rapture. These are people who have heard the gospel, all right, but did not receive it, all right? For this reason, God will send upon them a deluding influence so that they will believe what is false, in order that they may be judged who did not believe the truth, but took pleasure in wickedness. So, the answer to folks that say, oh, I'm just not, if the tribulation happens, no big deal, I'll believe at that point. Not so quick. This matches up with Romans 11, where we see that when the Jews did not believe in the Messiah, God hardened or hid Jesus from them so that it was hard for them to believe. Now, going into the tribulation period, if you have heard the gospel and you have rejected it, God is going to put a deluding influence on you so that you will believe, or it'll be very easy for you to believe, the Antichrist. If that doesn't scare you, if you're a non-believer, that you will just be suckered in to the Antichrist. And trust me, I think we would be suckered in at first to the Antichrist until we hit that 3.5 years and really saw the pure evil that he was. Ooh. What's that?
No. Well, it says right there, though. I mean, if they have been told the truth, and they don't believe it and accept it, then it's not at all surprising that obviously they're going to go with him. This bad dude over here.
It's the black and white. I mean, it's
just not.
It's going to get so clear cut. I mean, I just, when I read the scripture and I read about it, it's just going to be black, white, black, white. All right. So we've already talked about, I'm going to try to skip a little bit. We've already talked about him being profane. Now, it ain't going to end.
I saw that. I was wondering about that.
What's that?
The Antichrist will even oppose Satan?
No.
Where'd you say that? Even oppose the prince of
Princes, God.
princes. Yeah, that's God.
Oh, it's God.
Yeah. So the Antichrist, it's the second part, but will be broken without human elements. So, agents, sorry. So, basically, at the end of all of this, we're going to get to this wonderful little, it's not really a battle of Armageddon, it is a campaign of Armageddon. And that didn't turn out all that great. But there is, at the end, going to be a real big battle that's going on. Because what's going to happen is some of the nations are going to start to revolt. The way it reads is, Antichrist takes his army and goes after Jerusalem. All right? And then what happens is Babylon gets destroyed, Jerusalem falls, but then other nations come after the Antichrist, and there's a bloodbath. And this is all going on, and then Jesus comes down. And when Jesus comes down, and there's steps to all this, when he comes down, we got to go back to the 2 Thessalonians quote. One of the first things that we talked about. Let me get it. It's 2 Thessalonians.
2 something.
Hold on a second. I didn't put it up there. 2 Thessalonians, and I think it's chapter 2, verse 8. Then the lawless one will be revealed, whom the Lord will slay. You want to know how the battle of Armageddon, the campaign of Armageddon is going to end? You want to know how Antichrist, Satan, and the false witness, false prophet are going to end? With the breath of his mouth. So, you're going to have all this battle going on. You're talking about huge blood. I mean, it talks about up to the horse's bridle for miles and miles and miles. And this is that's the kind of destruction that the Antichrist is going to do with his armies. And Jesus is going to come, and we come with him. He's on a white horse, coming down from the clouds with a whole bunch of people in white. Coming down, and Jesus is going to slay him with the breath of his mouth.
Oh, yeah.
That's it.
And so that's interesting that you have Thessalonians by Paul, but then you have Revelation by John.
Mm-hmm.
And they didn't get together right, did they?
They got together with the Holy Spirit.
At least that's merciful as compared to the tribulation, what's going to be done to people. Because he opens his mouth and boom, that's it. They're gone.
Okay.
But they're in the pit for thousands of years,
Thank
right?
you.
I'm sorry.
Thank you. Because I'm not sure that is mercy. Okay? Because what happens is the lake of fire is opened up for business. Okay?
They had, okay. I understand that, but they had many chances.
Absolutely. But here's the thing. The first occupants of the lake of fire.
I understand that. But I'm still going to stand by my words that
Okay.
they should have. They just blew it.
Yeah.
I'm sorry also that they're going there, but
Well, that's a good heart. I mean, because I think we should be
I
sorry.
don't want anyone to have to
Yeah.
go there.
I totally agree. But here's the other thing here's the thing I want to follow up on that, because I think it's a good comment. Whether we want to admit it or not, we all deserve that.
Yeah.
Because the angels fell. A third of the angels fell when Satan rebelled. God did not save them. God did not provide a second chance for them. For us, he provided a second chance. And that second chance is through the blood of Jesus. And
We don't know what all they did
I know.
before they,
Yeah.
you know.
So I think
Created in God's image anyway.
they were not.
So, I mean,
Never says an angel was created in God's image. Right.
So it's sort of a different.
Yes.
Not, you don't have to add.
So I actually got done 5 minutes early.
Are you doing it?
Yeah, I got done 5 minutes early. So no, did I answer your questions that you came in?
I have one that came up while we were doing it, because I went back in the Daniel verses
Mhm.
and just looked at what my
Yeah.
Bible's notes are, which is it's the Zodervan.
Yeah.
uh,
It's on it.
NIV. And it says in the section of chapter 8 of Daniel where references to the Antichrist, and I think it is, but it also mentions that the horn that started small was Antiochus the Fourth,
And,
Antiochus the Fourth.
Yes. So,
Epiphanes.
Repeat what, we don't know what he said.
Okay.
So do you want to comment on that?
Yes. Because we talked about this when we went through Daniel.
Mhm.
Okay. Throughout the Old Testament, you get these little previews. You get these what amounts to dry runs.
Preview.
Yeah. So Antioch, Xerxes, or no, Epiphany.
Epiphanes, yeah, said that he made a determined effort to destroy the Jewish faith during his time.
And he was a precursor of the Antichrist.
Okay.
And
So it's like Daniel could have been talking about both of them. Even,
and he was. Yeah.
He was foretelling this. Daniel was way before this.
Yeah.
Right? So,
Oh yeah, and Antioch Epiphany very much in the line of what the Antichrist is going to do. In fact, so there are some that will look at Daniel and say that those were fulfilled with Antiochus Epiphany.
Right.
Antiochus Epiphany. They will say that was fulfilled then. The problem with that one is Satan hasn't been bound.
mm-hmm.
He's still here. So that's definitely a precursor to it's a type of Antichrist, no doubt. That's good.
Well, yeah, you could say that he could also be a precursor for Hitler too, because he kind of did the same thing to the Jewish people, tried to destroy them.
Yeah. Well, Haman in Esther.
Mm-hmm.
That's true.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so that's why I mean that to be God's chosen people has really not been a good thing for them. Every time they build up a little, somebody comes along and cuts them in half.
We were in San Antonio last Christmas with Victor, taking him on the river walk and stuff. And John was talking to this couple, and they said, we were just talking, and I don't know how it came up, but they were Jewish. And John goes, "Oh, you're the chosen people." And they went, "Yeah, right."
Chosen for what?
Yeah. It's like, oh.
Yeah.
It's interesting about when you talk to Jewish people, how many are not in the synagogue, not
How many
Right.
practicing
not,
Jews?
just like the Christians.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
Or just exactly, we might say what they're not practicing, I just maybe lay down our crews.
I got to tell you,
Interesting, she quit.
I work with a couple of Messianic Jews.
Oh, neat.
Okay, Messianic Jews. They believe in Christ, but they also follow the Jewish practices.
Mm-hmm.
I love just hearing them talk Old Testament, because it's not Moses, it's Moshe.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
oh,
Yeah,
awesome.
they don't have a whole Old Testament, do they?
What's
They don't have the whole Old Testament.
Mhm.
They do? It's
Sure.
Yeah, they have the Old Testament.
Yeah, they.
As it is? I think
Okay,
it's
so there's a couple of differences because like first First and Second Samuel are one book. And the order is a little different. There is some of that, but Chronicle, First and Second Chronicles are one book. All that kind of stuff. Yeah. Any other questions?
Good job.
It's becoming clearer and clearer.
Good.
I'm so glad they didn't come from the city. I just didn't even think about that. I thought, how could it come from the city? What is that?
Well, next week we get.
The beast, and it's from the earth.
Yeah. Now, how should I put this? Some students of prophecies will tell you that the false prophet is the Pope. And the Catholics themselves have a prophecy concerning the last Pope. I'll leave you with that.